Welcome to this little chat. My name is Afatchao, and I'm the president of the board of ICPSD.
My name is Whitney Schroeder. I am the executive director of ICPSD. Today we want to talk about community-led development. So can you share with us, Ro, what we mean when we say community-led development?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a key to whatever we to everything we do in Togo right now, because we want the community to have ownership of everything that we are doing over there. So when we say community led, it's basically the community having ownership, basically. Not just about the work itself, but also about the process and about everything, so that when we leave, and we will leave one day, we won't stay there forever. The community feels like this is a part of their own sort of a way of doing things. So it's not a top-down process, somebody telling them, but the community themselves leading the charge. Yeah. That's why when you see what we do, we embed locals, the women group, youth group. We're working with K-12 system. We're working with various stakeholders and all those stuff. So at the end of the day, the project there, even though we contribute a lot to that project, they own the project. They own the project. The recollection and all those stuff have been done by them most of the time. So we might provide like an instrument. We might provide a certain way of collecting data. We might provide a little bit of the scientific background or of what we're doing and all those stuff. But at the end of the day, they own it. We plant local tree species, right? A lot of them come from the chart that we have with them, the trees that they wanted to see, right? Remember when we talked to them, and then they were talking about some of the tree species that they used to have in the old days that they don't have anymore. So we are doing that. So it's not us coming down and say, okay, we think you should grow this, think you should grow that. No. And then, unfortunately, in the development circle, international development circle, programs are not conceived by the locals, right? Yes, there is a requirement now. Basically, it's the thing that everybody has to do. If you wanted to submit a grant to organization stuff, you have to have inputs from the locals. How much input can they have if you already creating the program and say, okay, we just want you to bless what we are bringing. Yeah. And those communities that are at disadvantage, when vis-a-vis those big organizations that have means, right? They might be bringing jobs to the community. They might be bringing stuff to the community. So whatever people ask them to sign off on, they sign off on those. Do they own the project? Probably not. I teach various cases in international development, and where communities get flashy projects and all those stuff. And after 5 years, usually, normal life cycle of those international projects is between 3 to 5 years. After 5 years, when the international organization leaves the area, everything crumbles because there is no ownership. And there is not just no community ownership. People who conceive the project don't conceive it with the locals in their minds. So we work a lot on what is known. They work a lot on the hardware portion, but they don't work on the software portion. Hardware meaning that yes, you let's say if you wanted to bring agriculture exploitation, you want to support agriculture exploitation in the country, right? In the community, you bring in all these flashy stuff, machineries and all those stuff. Those are nice. At first, they look nice, right? But when you bring those hardware, and then you don't think about what happens, will the local small landholder be able to buy those big machineries after you leave? That's a big question. Number two, when you bring those hardware and you're not teaching people the skills, then you're not doing a favor to yourself. And we've seen this over and over again in international development, and that's the tragedy. If you look at the data, more than $1 trillion spent, on various projects just in Africa, right? And yet, the results, there's nothing to show for if you think about it. With that amount of money that was dropped on the continent, normally, communities should be flourishing right now, and they are not. Why? Because people who conceive the project don't think about the local context for the most part. And because they're the one giving the money, imagine if they're the one giving the money, they get to own, they get to tell us, they get to tell communities what to do,
Yep.
which is good. The money is coming, everybody's happy. The resources are coming, everybody's happy. But once you leave, everything crumbles. So we think in ICPSD, we believe that we need a different way of doing things, and that as frustrating as it might be, let the local leave. The local should lead
Yep.
the development, and because that word development itself is a very tricky concept. We have this Western style development, which means you have to have flashy road, flashy this, flashy that. You have to have certain amount of money in bank account and all those stuff. Yes, all that stuff is good, but at the end of the day, development ought to be culture specific.
Right. Is it
Development.
really necessary?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we don't even have the resources left on earth to actually have the same type of way of development, right? So we can do it differently. If we leave communities, we help the communities, support communities, so they can actually develop, provide for their own development.
Yeah, you mentioned as frustrating as it can be, and being someone from the Western context that's a part of this and observing it and supporting it. I think my biggest frustration is not with thoughts of like, oh, it should be done this way or what. It's more on the Western side where are trying to get funding with this model and not be beholden to someone else's dictates because of that funding. And that's where a lot of my frustration has been, is because it's like you just said, people come in and they, there's all these stipulations with grant money and all this stuff. And, I get there's a lot of nuance there, but it has been a big challenge for us to get the support to these people to do these projects because of that. But on the flip side, COVID was also, I think, not an opportunity, but like it helped us see how well this is working for us so far, because the nursery went on. Ro wasn't able to go to Togo for 2 years because of all the COVID lockdowns. Togo locked down quite strict, and the U.S. had its stuff too, and they did fine with us. And in a lot of ways, we're just kind of the financial support because of that lack of capacity right there, and that's part of, as we grow, what we're trying to work on, facilitating away from that need even. But yeah, that was one of the kind of observations I had during COVID, was like, yes.
Yeah, that's very true, because when you have a project that depends a lot on foreigners, then when things like COVID happen and foreigners leave,
or grant runs
then
out,
grants run out, then
Yep.
you all of a sudden you can't do anything. You can't do anything. That's why our model, even though we can't have big grants right now, at least right now we can't, because people putting out the big grants, like you said, they have a call for proposal and they have their own objective that they wanted to achieve that might not match what we are trying to do. Even though that is frustrating, we have small donors, and the good thing about small donors, especially recurring donors, right, that donate like even $10, $20, $100, $50 a month, is that they don't dictate. They love our approach. They don't dictate what we should do or not do, as long as we're good, steward of the resources, and they know that we are, because if you look at our budget and what we've been able to do over the years with that small budget that we have, right? Those people are trusting us and are giving us, sort of a carte blanche to basically do what is in the best interest of the communities, not what somebody else could be dictating to you as this is what they wanted to see. And that's it. I don't know how we get out of that model one day, because most those communities that we help don't have the resources.
Yeah.
The resources
Yeah.
are mostly from the West.
Yep.
And then they come with string attached. I'm not blaming community, folks donating in the West for giving, because it's their
No.
money at the end
Yep.
of the day. And a lot of the money also they're doing it with a certain, objective in mind. Some of them is altruistic, a lot of them are not. Some people do it for
Whether they realize
to
it
go
or
to
not.
go and
Yeah.
proselytize.
Yeah.
Others do it for foreign policy reasons because they want certain specific interests they wanted to see. Others do it especially when it comes to advance. Some do it to advance the interests of their own, how do you call it, farming corporations, and they do a lot of stuff. So that's fine. But at the end of the day, if we truly wanted to help those communities achieve certain standard of living, if we wanted to help them get out of endemic poverty, then we better be teaching them how to fish, right? And also teaching them how to fish, knowing that they might not have the same type of fish over there,
Right.
but they'll have their
Yep.
own different type,
Same
right?
type of fishing.
Yeah. So, and yeah, if we can do that, I think we will be well off. But so far, that model has not carried the day.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what you mentioned there, because we've spoke to this as well, in terms of like taking, people like to throw the word sustainability around, and when we've talked about like our, reforestation, moving towards restoration type of work, it's a long game, and I think there's a lot of history in the Western aid or nonprofit type world where it's like things have to happen now and fast and immediate results, and that's what a lot of the grant systems and stuff traditionally have been set up for, where I personally think it's just amazing and quite beautiful, this kind of grassroots approach, not only from the donor side of folks supporting us, but also with this community-led development aspect. And it's that long game. We're looking at the long game and not this like, oh, let's have it fixed in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. People's life don't revolve, don't change in 3 or 4 years, or 5 years, and most grants are usually on 3 to 5 year cycle, right?
Yep.
And yes, you can do a lot, but you're not gonna be able to have sort of a long-term changes,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
What we call sustainable quote unquote change within the community in that time frame, and especially if you're not letting the local themselves lead the charge.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's why, folks. That's why we really focus on the idea of a community-led development, and then we provide support, and then we work side by side with them, and then we learn lessons, and then we share the lessons learned with others as well, at least. That so that others don't have to reinvent the wheel, knowing that their own community might have different needs. As long as they will let they're the one leading the charge, they should be fine. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it. And thank you. These are the hearts of our approach, right?
Yes.
So if we can do that, then we will be failing at what we said we set out to do. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.